London, a city steeped in history, brimming with iconic landmarks, and governed by a subtle but ever-present sense of decorum, tourists flocked to its bustling streets, cameras clicking, eager to capture their own piece of the British experience. Among the most sought-after sights were the royal guards, stoic figures in scarlet tunics and bearskin hats, symbols of tradition and unwavering duty. They stood sentry at Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, and other royal residences, their presence radiating an aura of quiet authority that commanded respect. The atmosphere surrounding the royal guards was palpable. A hushed reverence settled over the crowds as they marched. Their synchronized steps echoing through the air, people understood, instinctively, that these were not simply men in costumes. They were representatives of the crown, guardians of tradition, and symbols of national pride. There was an unspoken agreement to maintain a respectful distance, to observe the protocols, and to appreciate the solemnity of the occasion. It was understood. You did not interrupt the royal guard, you certainly did not impede their progress. And then there was Karen. She arrived in London with a suitcase full of expectations and a singular mission: to document her amazing European adventure on social media. Karen was, to put it mildly, oblivious to the subtle cues of social etiquette, oblivious to the weight of history, and utterly oblivious to the concept of personal space. Her world revolved around likes, shares, and the carefully curated image she projected online. She saw London not as a place to be experienced, but as a backdrop for her personal performance. From the moment she stepped off the plane, Karen's entitlement was on full display. She cut lines at passport control, demanded preferential treatment at hotels, and loudly complained about the tiny portions at restaurants. Everything was about her, her needs, and her perceived right to have everything exactly as she wanted it. She saw the world as her stage, and everyone else as supporting characters in her personal drama. Her pursuit of the perfect selfie had already led to several minor incidents. She'd posed inappropriately in front of a war memorial, nearly knocked over a flower stall while trying to get a candid shot, and argued with a street performer who refused to be part of her impromptu photo shoot. Each incident was met with a dismissive shrug and the muttered excuse that she was just having fun. Now, standing near the Tower of London, Karen spotted her next target: a marching contingent of royal guards. A gleam of avarice shone in her eyes. This, she thought, would be the ultimate selfie. The one that would break the internet. The one that would cement her status as a travel influencer extraordinaire. Little did she know, this particular photo opportunity would soon lead to a series of events that would change her life forever, and not in the way she imagined. The stage was set, the players were in place, and the drama was about to unfold. The royal guard was marching closer, and Karen was about to learn a very public, very humiliating lesson. The marching royal guards were now only a few hundred feet away, their rhythmic footfalls growing louder with each passing second. The crowd, sensing the impending arrival, began to murmur with excitement, subtly shifting to create a clearer path for the procession. Everyone, that is, except Karen. Her eyes were glued to her phone screen, meticulously adjusting the camera angle, applying filters, and rehearsing her pose. A slight breeze ruffled her perfectly styled hair, prompting a minor meltdown as she frantically tried to smooth it back into place. The approaching royal guard was merely an obstacle, a minor inconvenience in her quest for online validation. Several prominent signs, clearly displaying warnings about obstructing the royal guard's path, were conveniently ignored. Karen breezed past them as if they were invisible, her focus solely on achieving selfie perfection. A few concerned bystanders, noticing her oblivious behavior, attempted to intervene. "Excuse me, miss," a kindly elderly woman said, her voice laced with apprehension. "You might want to step back. The guards are coming." Karen, without even looking up from her phone, waved her hand dismissively. "It's fine. I know what I'm doing," she muttered, her tone dripping with impatience. "I'm just getting a quick picture." A young man, witnessing the exchange, tried a different approach. "Seriously, it's not a good idea to stand there," he cautioned. "They won't stop for you." Karen finally deigned to acknowledge him, rolling her eyes dramatically. "Oh, relax," she scoffed. "They're just guys in costumes. They'll go around me." Her arrogance was astounding, her disregard for the safety and respect of others breathtaking. She truly believed that the world would bend to her will, that even the royal guard would adjust their centuries-old traditions to accommodate her selfish desires. As the royal guard drew nearer, the warnings became more urgent. The crowd, now acutely aware of the impending collision, collectively held its breath. Whispers of "move," "get out of the way," and "she's going to get hurt," rippled through the air, but Karen remained steadfast, her eyes fixed on her phone, her thumb poised to capture the perfect moment. The leader of the marching guards, a stern-faced sergeant with years of experience, noticed the impending obstruction. His expression remained impassive, his focus unwavering. He had a duty to perform, a route to maintain, and a tradition to uphold. He wouldn't deviate, he wouldn't falter, and he certainly wouldn't stop for a selfie. Karen, oblivious to the danger, continued to inch closer to the approaching guards, her determination fueled by a potent cocktail of entitlement and narcissism. She was so close now. She could almost feel the vibrations of their marching boots. This was it, the moment of truth. She took a deep breath, struck her most flattering pose, and raised her phone, ready to capture the image that would catapult her to internet stardom. The royal guard was almost upon her, their faces grim, their pace unwavering. The collision was imminent, the consequences unavoidable. Karen, lost in her self-absorbed world, was about to learn a very harsh, very public lesson about the importance of respect, awareness, and the unyielding force of tradition. The stage was set for a truly unforgettable moment. The moment arrived. Karen, phone in hand, stepped directly into the path of the marching royal guard. It wasn't a tentative step, nor a hesitant pause. It was a deliberate act, a bold assertion of her perceived right to be exactly where she wanted, regardless of the consequences. The click of her phone's shutter blended with the rhythmic thud of approaching boots, creating a surreal soundtrack to the unfolding drama. The royal guard, as if controlled by an invisible force, continued his unwavering march. His eyes remained fixed straight ahead, his face a mask of stoic indifference. He was a machine, a symbol, an embodiment of discipline, and he would not deviate from his programmed course. The crowd gasped. A collective intake of breath swept through the onlookers, a wave of horrified anticipation. They knew what was coming, and they could only watch in stunned silence as the inevitable unfolded. The impact was swift and decisive. There was no hesitation, no warning, no change in expression from the royal guard. With a movement so precise it seemed almost choreographed, he extended his arm, his hand making firm contact with Karen's shoulder. It wasn't a violent shove, nor a malicious attack. It was a controlled, efficient maneuver, executed with the same precision and discipline that characterized every aspect of his duty. He simply moved her aside, clearing the path with the minimum amount of force necessary. Karen, completely unprepared for the encounter, stumbled backward, her phone flying from her hand and landing with a sickening crack on the cobblestones. She landed awkwardly, her carefully constructed pose collapsing into a heap of dishevelment and disbelief. The royal guard, without missing a beat, continued his march, his footsteps echoing through the stunned silence. He didn't look back. He didn't acknowledge the incident. He simply maintained his unwavering course, a testament to his training and dedication. The crowd remained frozen, their eyes fixed on Karen, who was now sitting on the ground, her face a mask of shock and humiliation. The air was thick with tension, a mixture of amusement, disapproval, and a palpable sense of she deserved it. For Karen, the world seemed to slow down. The cheers of London, once a symphony of excitement, became a dull roar in the background. The faces of the onlookers, once blurry and indistinct, now seemed to be staring directly at her, judging her, mocking her. The realization of what had just happened began to dawn on her. She had been so focused on getting the perfect selfie that she had completely disregarded the rules, the warnings, and the basic principles of respect. And now she was paying the price, the pain in her shoulder, the sting of embarrassment, and the sickening crunch of her shattered phone paled in comparison to the wave of regret that washed over her. In that moment, sitting on the cobblestones of London, Karen instantly regretted everything, the entitlement, the arrogance, the self-absorption. It all seemed so foolish, so petty, so utterly pointless. She had sought fame and validation, and she had found only humiliation and shame. The perfect selfie had turned into a perfect disaster, a moment that would forever be etched in her memory. The royal guard continued his march, a symbol of tradition and discipline, while Karen sat on the ground, a symbol of entitlement and regret. The incident was over, but the consequences were just beginning. The cobblestones felt cold and unforgiving beneath Karen. She remained seated, a tableau of shock and disbelief. Her carefully constructed facade of confidence had crumbled, replaced by a raw vulnerability she rarely allowed herself to feel. The world seemed to spin slightly, blurring the faces in the crowd into a sea of indistinct shapes. Her initial reaction was disbelief. How dare he? How dare that guard shove her aside like that? Didn't he know who she was? Didn't he realize the importance of her selfie? But even as these thoughts flitted through her mind, a deeper, more honest voice whispered that she had brought this upon herself. Embarrassment washed over her in a hot, stinging wave. The humiliation was excruciating, a burning sensation that spread from her cheeks to the tips of her toes. She wanted to disappear, to melt into the cobblestones and become invisible. She wanted to rewind time, to undo her actions, to erase the entire incident from existence. But there was no going back. The moment had happened, the damage was done, and she was now the object of public scrutiny. The crowd, initially silent in shock, began to react. A few scattered chuckles broke the tension, quickly escalating into outright laughter. Some people pointed and whispered, their faces alight with amusement. Others shook their heads in disapproval, their expressions conveying a clear message of she had it coming. Beneath the amusement and disapproval, however, was a palpable sense of relief. The royal guard had maintained his duty. He had upheld tradition, and he had not allowed a self-absorbed tourist to disrupt the solemnity of the occasion. There was a sense of satisfaction that order had been restored, that the sanctity of the royal guard had been preserved. One man, emboldened by the crowd's reaction, shouted, "Serves you right, love. You can't just go around interrupting the Queen's guard." Another chimed in, "Maybe next time you'll read the signs." Karen, mortified by the attention, wanted to crawl into a hole and die. She finally managed to scramble to her feet, brushing off her clothes and attempting to salvage what was left of her dignity. She avoided eye contact with the crowd, her face burning with shame. She retrieved the shattered remains of her phone, her heart sinking further with each shard of glass she picked up. The screen was a spiderweb of cracks, the camera lens completely destroyed. The perfect selfie, the one that was supposed to catapult her to internet stardom, was now nothing more than a broken dream. She turned to walk away. A young girl approached her, her eyes wide with a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Are you okay, miss?" she asked tentatively. Karen, caught off guard by the unexpected kindness, managed a weak smile. "Yeah, I'm fine," she mumbled, her voice barely audible. "Just a little clumsy, I guess." But she knew that she was far from fine. The physical pain was minor, but the emotional damage was significant. The incident had exposed her flaws, her arrogance, her self-absorption. It had forced her to confront the consequences of her actions, and it had left her with a lingering sense of shame and regret. The immediate aftermath was a harsh and unforgiving lesson, one that Karen would not soon forget. Little did Karen know, as she limped away from the scene of her humiliation, that her ordeal was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Unbeknownst to her, a bystander had captured the entire incident on video, from her initial disregard for the signs to the moment of impact and her subsequent tumble to the ground. The bystander, a young man named Ben, had initially intended to record the Royal Guard's procession. He thought it would make a great video for his travel vlog. But as he watched Karen's antics unfold, he realized he was witnessing something far more compelling, something far more viral. Without hesitation, Ben uploaded the video to social media. He captioned it simply, "Entitled tourist gets owned by Royal Guard." He didn't expect much, maybe a few likes and shares from his friends. But within minutes, the video exploded. The algorithm gods smiled upon Ben's video, and it was quickly shared, retweeted, and reposted across every major social media platform. The hashtag RoyalGuardShove became a trending topic, and Karen's face, frozen in a moment of shock and disbelief, became an instant meme. The internet, as it often does, pounced on the opportunity to mock and ridicule. Karen was branded Entitled Karen, Selfie Karen, and a variety of other less than flattering nicknames. Her actions were dissected, analyzed, and condemned by millions of people around the world. The comments sections of the video were a toxic wasteland of negativity. People called her names, criticized her appearance, and made cruel jokes about her misfortune. Some even went so far as to dig up her personal information and post it online, turning her into a target for online harassment. The initial reactions were overwhelmingly negative. People were outraged by Karen's blatant disrespect for the royal guard and British tradition. They saw her as a symbol of everything that was wrong with modern tourism, the obsession with selfies, the disregard for local customs, and the pervasive sense of entitlement. Memes featuring Karen's face flooded the internet. She was photoshopped into historical events, superimposed onto famous paintings, and turned into a variety of ridiculous characters. The internet's creativity was both impressive and terrifying. The video even caught the attention of major news outlets. The story of entitled Karen was reported on television, radio, and in newspapers around the world. She became a global laughingstock, a cautionary tale about the dangers of social media obsession and the importance of respecting cultural norms. Karen, completely unaware of the online storm brewing around her, was still reeling from the events of the day. She was trying to figure out how to replace her broken phone and salvage the rest of her vacation. She had no idea that she was about to become the most hated person on the internet. The social media frenzy was a force of nature, a relentless torrent of negativity that threatened to consume her. Her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. The consequences of her actions were about to extend far beyond the cobblestones of London. The internet never forgets, and Karen was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The realization of her newfound internet infamy hit Karen like a ton of bricks. A friend back home, seeing the viral video and recognizing her instantly, sent her a frantic text message. "Karen, are you okay? You're all over the internet." Initially, Karen was confused. She had no idea what her friend was talking about. But when she finally managed to borrow a phone and Google her name, the truth became horrifyingly clear. There she was, plastered across every major news website, meme page, and social media platform. The comments, the memes, the sheer volume of negativity was overwhelming. Her first instinct was denial. She couldn't believe that this was happening to her. She was a victim. She told herself, a victim of circumstance. Victim of the Royal Guard's aggression. A victim of the internet's insatiable appetite for drama. Fueled by a potent mix of anger, fear, and a desperate need to control the narrative, Karen decided to fight back. She created a new social media account and posted a lengthy statement defending her actions. "Okay, everyone needs to calm down," she wrote. "I was just trying to get a good photo for my travel blog. I didn't see the guard coming. And he totally overreacted. I didn't deserve to be shoved like that. It was assault." She went on to accuse the Royal Guard of being unprofessional, the crowd of being judgmental, and the internet of being cruel. She painted herself as the innocent victim of a misunderstanding, a well-intentioned tourist who had simply been caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. But her attempt at damage control backfired spectacularly. Instead of garnering sympathy, her statement only fueled the fire. People pointed out the obvious contradictions in her story, the numerous signs she had ignored, the warnings she had dismissed, and the clear evidence in the video that she had deliberately stepped into the Royal Guard's path. The comments section of her post became even more toxic. People accused her of lying, of playing the victim, and of being completely delusional. They dug up her past social media posts, highlighting her previous instances of entitled behavior and further solidifying her reputation as a Karen. "Didn't see the guard coming?" One commenter wrote. "He was literally marching right at you? Are you blind? Assault?" Another chimed in. "He barely touched you. You're lucky he didn't arrest you for obstructing a public procession." Her attempt to defend herself only served to amplify the negativity and cement her status as the internet's most hated person. The more she tried to explain, the deeper she dug herself into a hole. The online backlash was relentless. People created parody accounts in her name, posting outrageous and offensive content. They flooded her email inbox with hate mail. They even started a petition calling for her to be banned from the United Kingdom. Karen was completely overwhelmed. She had underestimated the power of the internet and the speed with which a single mistake could be amplified into a global scandal. Her attempt to control the narrative had failed miserably, and she was now facing the full force of the internet's wrath. The more she tried to defend herself, the more she became a symbol of entitlement, arrogance, and everything that was wrong with the digital age. As the internet continued to dissect Karen's every move, a more unsettling narrative began to emerge. It wasn't just about the Royal Guard incident. It was about a pattern of behavior, a consistent disregard for rules and social norms that seemed to define her personality. Amateur internet sleuths, fueled by righteous indignation and a thirst for justice, or perhaps just morbid curiosity, began digging into Karen's past. They scoured her social media accounts, her online reviews, and any other digital footprint they could find. What they uncovered painted a disturbing picture. There were countless examples of Karen complaining about minor inconveniences, demanding special treatment, and generally making life difficult for service industry workers. She had left scathing reviews of restaurants because her food wasn't Instagrammable enough, argued with store clerks over expired coupons, and even tried to get a flight attendant fired for not giving her a complimentary upgrade. But the most damning evidence came from interviews with people who actually knew Karen. Friends, former co-workers, and even a few disgruntled ex-boyfriends came forward to share their stories, each one reinforcing the image of an entitled and self-absorbed individual. Karen always thought she was better than everyone else, said a former co-worker, speaking on condition of anonymity. She was constantly complaining about her job, but she never did anything to improve her situation. She just expected everything to be handed to her. A former friend described Karen as incredibly demanding and completely oblivious to the needs of others. It was always about her, she said. She would constantly interrupt conversations to talk about herself, and she never seemed to listen when other people were talking. One of Karen's ex-boyfriends painted an even more unflattering picture. She was incredibly entitled, he said. She expected me to pay for everything, and she would throw a fit if I didn't get her what she wanted. She treated me like I was her personal servant. These accounts, combined with the evidence gleaned from her online activity, created a compelling narrative. Karen wasn't just having a bad day. She was consistently demonstrating a pattern of entitled and disrespectful behavior. The Royal Guard incident wasn't an isolated incident. It was simply the culmination of years of self-centeredness and a complete lack of empathy. The internet pounced on this new information, further solidifying Karen's reputation as the poster child for entitlement. The memes became even more pointed, the comments even more venomous. The online harassment intensified, and Karen found herself facing a level of scrutiny and condemnation that she could never have imagined. The deeper dive into Karen's background revealed a truth that was far more complex and disturbing than a simple case of a tourist taking a bad selfie. It exposed a pattern of behavior that suggested a deeper, more fundamental problem, and it raised a question that many people were now asking. Was Karen simply a product of her environment, or was she genuinely a bad person? The answer, as with most things in life, was likely somewhere in between. While the internet was busy dissecting Karen's life, the Royal Guard at the center of the controversy remained a stoic and silent figure. He was simply doing his job, following the strict protocols and unwavering discipline that had been instilled in him through months of rigorous training. The Royal Guards are not merely ceremonial figures. They are highly trained soldiers who are entrusted with the security of the royal family and royal residences. Their training is demanding, both physically and mentally, pushing them to their limits and instilling in them a deep sense of duty and responsibility. They undergo extensive drills to perfect their marching technique, ensuring that every step is precise and synchronized. They learn how to handle weapons, how to respond to threats, and how to maintain their composure under pressure. They are taught to be alert, observant, and unwavering in their commitment to their duty. Their iconic bearskin hats, which weigh several pounds, are not just for show. They are designed to make the guards appear taller and more imposing, further enhancing their aura of authority. The scarlet tunics, while visually striking, are also functional, providing protection from the elements and allowing for freedom of movement. The Royal Guards operate under a strict set of protocols, which dictate how they should respond to various situations. They are trained to maintain their position and continue their march, even in the face of obstacles or distractions. They are not allowed to break rank, engage in conversation, or deviate from their designated route. In the case of Karen, The royal guard's response was entirely consistent with these protocols. He assessed the situation, determined that she was obstructing his path, and took the necessary action to clear the way. He did so with precision and efficiency, using the minimum amount of force necessary to achieve his objective. To gain further insight into the situation, news outlets interviewed military experts who specialize in security protocols. One such expert, a retired colonel named Richard Davies, offered his perspective on the incident. The Royal Guard's response was entirely appropriate. Colonel Davies stated, he had a duty to perform, and he was not going to allow a tourist to impede his progress. He acted decisively and professionally, and he should be commended for his actions. Colonel Davies emphasized that the Royal Guards are not trained to stop or deviate from their route for any reason, unless there is a credible threat to their safety or the safety of others. They are trained to maintain their position and continue their march, regardless of the circumstances, he explained. This is essential for maintaining security and upholding tradition. He added that the Royal Guard's response was a clear message that disrespect for the Royal Guard and British tradition would not be tolerated. The Royal Guards are symbols of national pride, and they deserve to be treated with respect, he said. Anyone who obstructs their path or disrespects their duty should expect to face the consequences. The Royal Guard, in his unwavering commitment to duty and adherence to protocol, became an unlikely hero in the eyes of many. He was a symbol of tradition, discipline, and unwavering resolve, a stark contrast to Karen's self-absorbed and entitled behavior. The incident served as a reminder that some things are more important than selfies, and that respect for tradition and duty should always take precedence over personal gratification. The relentless tide of negativity directed at Karen began to show signs of ebbing, albeit slowly. As the initial shock and outrage subsided, a more nuanced perspective started to emerge. Some people, witnessing the sheer scale of the online shaming, began to question whether the punishment truly fit the crime. The turning point came when a few prominent social media influencers, known for their thoughtful commentary and advocacy against cyberbullying, spoke out in Karen's defense. They acknowledged that her behavior had been inappropriate, but they argued that the online harassment had gone too far. Yes, Karen made a mistake. One influencer wrote in a lengthy Twitter thread, she was entitled, she was disrespectful, and she deserved to be called out for her actions. But the level of hatred and vitriol directed at her is completely disproportionate. That she's being subjected to a level of online abuse that no one deserves. Another influencer posted a video arguing that Karen's actions, while wrong, were ultimately harmless. She didn't hurt anyone, she said. She didn't commit a crime. She simply made a poor decision in a moment of misguided judgment. Is that really worth destroying her life over? These voices, amplified by their large followings, began to resonate with some people. They pointed out that Karen was, after all, just a human being, capable of making mistakes. They argued that she had already suffered enough from the public humiliation and the loss of her phone, and that the online shaming was only serving to exacerbate her pain. Some people also began to question the accuracy of the narrative that had been constructed around Karen. They pointed out that the information gleaned from her social media accounts and the interviews with her acquaintances was often taken out of context or presented in a biased way. They argued that it was unfair to judge her based on a few isolated incidents, without considering the full complexity of her life. We're only seeing a snapshot of Karen's life. One commenter wrote on a news article about the incident, we don't know what she's going through, what challenges she's facing. Maybe she's dealing with personal issues that are contributing to her behavior. We shouldn't be so quick to judge. The shift in public opinion was subtle but noticeable. The comments sections of news articles and social media posts became less uniformly negative. Some people began to express sympathy for Karen, acknowledging that she had made a mistake but arguing that she deserved a chance to redeem herself. The memes, while still prevalent, became less malicious. Some people even started creating memes that poked fun at the online shaming itself, highlighting the absurdity of the situation and the dangers of mob mentality. The shift in public opinion was not universal, of course. Many people continued to harbor negative feelings towards Karen, believing that she had gotten what she deserved. But the emergence of a more sympathetic perspective marked a significant turning point in the story. It suggested that even in the age of social media outrage, there was still room for compassion, empathy, and a willingness to forgive. The internet, it seemed, was not always a monolithic force of negativity. Sometimes, it could also be a place for reflection, understanding, and even, perhaps, redemption. The subtle shift in public sentiment, coupled with the relentless online harassment, finally prompted Karen to take a different approach. She realized that her initial attempts to defend herself had only made things worse, and that a genuine apology was her only hope of salvaging her reputation. She hired a public relations consultant, a seasoned professional who specialized in crisis management and online reputation repair. The consultant advised her to take responsibility for her actions, express sincere remorse, and demonstrate a genuine commitment to learning from her mistakes. After weeks of careful preparation and soul-searching, Karen released a public apology. She chose to do so via a professionally produced video, rather than a written statement, believing that a visual medium would allow her to convey her sincerity more effectively. In the video, Karen appeared subdued and contrite. She spoke slowly and deliberately, her eyes occasionally welling up with tears. She began by acknowledging that her actions had been wrong and that she had caused offense. "I want to sincerely apologize for my behavior in London," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I was disrespectful, I was entitled, and I was completely oblivious to the importance of the Royal Guard and British tradition. There's no excuse for my actions, and I take full responsibility for what happened." She went on to explain that she had been caught up in the moment, obsessed with getting the perfect selfie, and that she had completely failed to consider the consequences of her actions. She admitted that she had ignored the signs, dismissed the warnings, and acted in a selfish and inconsiderate manner. "I understand that my actions caused offense to many people, both in the UK and around the world," she said. "I want to assure you that I never intended to disrespect the Royal Guard or British tradition. I was simply trying to get a photo, and I made a terrible mistake." She expressed remorse for disrupting the Royal Guard's procession and for undermining the solemnity of the occasion. She also apologized for her initial attempts to defend herself, acknowledging that they had only served to fuel the fire and cause further offense. "I realize now that my initial response was misguided and insensitive," she said. "I was trying to protect myself, but I ended up hurting a lot of people in the process. I am truly sorry for that." She concluded her apology by expressing a commitment to learning from her mistakes and becoming a more responsible and respectful traveler. She said that she had spent the past few weeks reflecting on her behavior and that she had come to realize the importance of respecting local customs and traditions. "I know that I can't undo what I've done," she said, "but I hope that I can earn back your trust and respect by demonstrating that I have learned from my mistakes and that I am committed to becoming a better person." The apology was a carefully crafted attempt to repair the damage that Karen had caused. It was sincere, contrite, and well-produced. But whether it would be enough to undo the internet's judgment remained to be seen. The court of public opinion was a fickle and unforgiving place, and Karen was about to find out whether her apology would be accepted or rejected. Karen's apology video was released into the digital ether, and the world waited with bated breath to see how it would be received. Initial response was, predictably, mixed. The internet, after all, is not a monolithic entity, but a chaotic collection of voices, opinions, and perspectives. Some people were immediately won over by Karen's apparent sincerity. They saw her apology as a genuine expression of remorse, a sign that she had learned from her mistakes and was committed to changing her behavior. They praised her for taking responsibility for her actions and for acknowledging the harm she had caused. "I was ready to write her off completely," one commenter wrote on the video, "but I have to admit, this apology is pretty impressive. She seems genuinely sorry, and I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt." Another commenter added, "I think we all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them and try to do better. I'm glad that Karen is taking responsibility for her actions, and I hope she can move on with her life." These positive reactions were encouraging, but they were far from universal. Many people remained skeptical of Karen's sincerity, questioning whether her apology was genuine or simply a calculated attempt to salvage her reputation. They pointed to her past behavior, her initial attempts to defend herself, and the fact that she had hired a public relations consultant to manage the crisis. "I'm not buying it," one commenter wrote. "This apology is clearly scripted and rehearsed. She's just saying what she thinks people want to hear. I don't believe she's genuinely sorry for what she did." Another commenter added, She only apologized because she got caught. If the video hadn't gone viral, she would have continued to act like nothing had happened. I don't think she's learned anything. The online debate raged on, with people arguing back and forth about Karen's sincerity and the appropriateness of her apology. Some people called for forgiveness, while others demanded accountability. Some people believed that she deserved a second chance, while others insisted that she should be held responsible for her actions for the rest of her life. The memes, which had previously been uniformly negative, became more nuanced. Some memes poked fun at the apology itself, while others satirized the online debate surrounding it. Some memes expressed sympathy for Karen, while others reinforced the image of her as an entitled and self-absorbed individual. Even news outlets struggled to reach a consensus on Karen's apology. Some praised her for taking responsibility for her actions, while others criticized her for being insincere and manipulative. Some argued that she deserved a second chance, while others insisted that she should be held accountable for her behavior. The apology, in the end, did not magically erase the damage that Karen had caused. It did not instantly restore her reputation, nor did it silence her critics. But it did inject a new element into the narrative, a glimmer of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, she could redeem herself. The court of public opinion remained divided, but the seeds of forgiveness had been sown. Whether they would take root and blossom remained to be seen. The mixed reception to Karen's apology highlighted the complexity of the situation. While some were willing to offer forgiveness, the real-world consequences of her actions began to materialize, proving that online infamy could have tangible and lasting repercussions. One of the first and most significant consequences was the loss of her job. Karen worked as a marketing manager for a small company, and her employers were deeply concerned about the negative publicity surrounding her actions. They felt that her behavior was inconsistent with the company's values and that her continued employment would damage their brand. After a series of tense meetings, Karen was ultimately terminated from her position. The official reason given was restructuring, but everyone knew the real reason. Karen's online infamy had made her unemployable. The loss of her job was a devastating blow, both financially and emotionally. Karen had enjoyed her work, and she had relied on her salary to support herself. Now she was unemployed, facing a mountain of debt, and struggling to find new opportunities, but the consequences extended beyond her professional life. Karen also faced social ostracization. Some of her friends and acquaintances distanced themselves from her, embarrassed to be associated with someone who had become a global laughingstock. She was no longer invited to social gatherings, and she found herself increasingly isolated and alone. Even her family members were affected. Karen's parents, who had always been proud of her accomplishments, were now subjected to ridicule and judgment from their friends and neighbors. They were ashamed of her behavior and struggled to understand how she could have acted so recklessly. The incident served as a stark reminder of the power of social media and the dangers of entitlement. Karen's actions, which had initially seemed inconsequential, had ultimately had a profound impact on her life and the lives of those around her. Her story became a cautionary tale, shared and discussed in classrooms, boardrooms, and living rooms around the world. It was used as an example of what can happen when people prioritize personal gratification over respect for others and when they fail to consider the consequences of their actions. The Karen incident also sparked a broader conversation about the ethics of social media shaming. Some people argued that it was a necessary tool for holding people accountable for their behavior, while others warned of the dangers of mob mentality and the potential for online harassment to spiral out of control. The long-term impact of the incident on Karen's life remains to be seen. She is still struggling to rebuild her career and her reputation, and she is likely to be haunted by her actions for years to come. But her story serves as a powerful reminder that even in the digital age, actions have consequences, and that entitlement and disrespect can have devastating repercussions. The world is watching, and the internet never forgets. The Karen versus Royal Guard incident served as a catalyst for a much broader conversation about responsible tourism and the importance of respecting local customs and traditions. Experts in travel, cultural sensitivity, and ethical behavior weighed in on the incident, offering valuable insights and practical advice for becoming a more considerate traveler. Tourism boards and travel agencies around the world began to emphasize the importance of cultural awareness and responsible behavior in their marketing campaigns. They highlighted the need to research local customs and traditions before traveling to a new destination, and to be mindful of the potential impact of one's actions on the local community. Travel is a privilege, not a right, said Dr. Emily Carter, a cultural anthropologist specializing in tourism. When we travel to a new place, we are guests in someone else's home. We have a responsibility to be respectful, to be mindful of local customs, and to avoid behaviors that could cause offense or harm. Dr. Carter emphasized the importance of doing research before traveling to a new destination. Learn about the local culture, the local customs, and the local traditions, she advised. Read books, watch documentaries, and talk to people who have visited the destination before. The more you know, the better prepared you will be to behave respectfully. Another expert, travel writer and ethical tourism advocate Mark Johnson, stressed the importance of being aware of one's own biases and assumptions. We all have our own cultural baggage, he said. We need to be aware of our own biases and assumptions and to be open to learning about different ways of life. Johnson also advised travelers to be mindful of the impact of their actions on the local environment. Be respectful of the natural environment, he said. Avoid littering, conserve water and energy, and support local businesses that are committed to sustainability. The Karen versus Royal Guard incident also sparked a discussion about the role of social media in shaping travel experiences. Experts warned of the dangers of being too focused on getting the perfect photo or creating a viral moment, and they encouraged travelers to be more present and engaged in their surroundings. Don't let your phone dictate your travel experience, said Sarah Miller, a social media expert specializing in travel. Put your phone down. Look around, and engage with the people and the culture around you. You'll have a much more meaningful and rewarding experience. Miller also advised travelers to be mindful of the images they post on social media. Think about the message you're sending with your photos and videos, she said. Are you promoting responsible tourism, or are you perpetuating harmful stereotypes or promoting disrespectful behavior? The Karen versus Royal Guard incident, while unfortunate, ultimately served as a valuable lesson for travelers around the world. IT highlighted the importance of respecting local customs and traditions, being mindful of the impact of one's actions, and using social media responsibly, by embracing these principles. Travelers can become more considerate, more ethical, and more enriching contributors to the global community. The world is a diverse and fascinating place, and it is our responsibility to explore it with respect, humility, and a genuine desire to learn and grow. The question that lingered long after the memes faded and the news cycles moved on was, what became of Karen? Did the incident truly change her, or was the apology merely a performance, a fleeting attempt to salvage her reputation before reverting to her old ways? The truth, as is often the case, is complex and nuanced. Karen versus Royal Guard incident served as a profound wake-up call for her, a harsh and unforgiving lesson that forced her to confront her flaws and reevaluate her priorities. In the immediate aftermath, she experienced a period of intense self-reflection and introspection. She spent countless hours poring over the comments, the memes, and the news articles that had dissected her every move. She was forced to confront the reality of how she was perceived by the world, and it was a painful and humbling experience. She began to understand that her entitlement, her arrogance, and her self-absorption had not only caused offense to others, but had also alienated her from herself. She realized that she had been living a superficial and unfulfilling life, driven by a desperate need for external validation and a constant pursuit of fleeting pleasures. With the help of a therapist, Karen began to address the underlying issues that had contributed to her behavior. She explored her childhood experiences, her insecurities, and her relationship with social media. She learned to identify her triggers and to develop healthier coping mechanisms. Slowly but surely, Karen began to transform. She started volunteering at a local homeless shelter, immersing herself in the lives of people who were struggling with real hardship. She took a course on cultural sensitivity, learning about the importance of respecting different traditions and perspectives. She even started a blog, not to promote herself, but to share her experiences and to encourage others to be more mindful and responsible travelers. It wasn't an easy journey. There were setbacks, moments of doubt, and relapses into old habits. But Karen persevered, driven by a genuine desire to become a better person. Years later, Karen is a different person than the one who stepped in front of the royal guard. She is more empathetic, more compassionate, and more aware of the world around her. She has learned to appreciate the simple things in life, to value genuine connections over superficial validation, and to find joy in giving back to others. She still uses social media, but she does so with a newfound sense of responsibility. She uses her platform to promote ethical tourism, to advocate for social justice, and to share stories of hope and resilience. She has even become an advocate against cyberbullying, drawing on her own experiences to educate others about the dangers of online harassment. Karen's transformation is not complete, and she knows that she will always be a work in progress. But she is proud of the progress she has made, and she is grateful for the lessons she has learned. The Karen versus Royal Guard incident was a turning point in her life, a moment of profound reckoning that ultimately set her on a path towards healing, growth, and redemption. At IT is a testament to the human capacity for change and a reminder that even the most egregious mistakes can be opportunities for growth and transformation. The story of entitled Karen and the Royal Guard is more than just a viral internet sensation. It's a microcosm of the challenges and complexities of navigating a globalized world. It's a reminder that in an age of instant communication and interconnectedness, our actions, no matter how seemingly small, can have far-reaching consequences. The events that unfolded near the Tower of London, the initial act of disrespect, the swift and decisive response, the online outrage, the public apology, and the subsequent transformation, offer a powerful lesson about the importance of humility, respect, and awareness in a world that is increasingly diverse and interconnected. It is essential to approach other cultures with a sense of curiosity, empathy, and a genuine desire to understand. We must be mindful of our own biases and assumptions and be willing to challenge them in the face of new information. We must recognize that our actions have consequences, and that even a seemingly harmless selfie can have a profound impact on others. The Karen versus Royal Guard incident also highlights the power of a single viral moment. In an age of social media, a single video, a single meme, a single tweet can ignite a global conversation and shape public opinion in profound ways. This power comes with a great responsibility. We must be mindful of the images and messages we share online and avoid perpetuating harmful stereotypes or promoting disrespectful behavior. The story of entitled Karen is a cautionary tale, but it is also a story of hope and redemption. It demonstrates that even the most egregious mistakes can be opportunities for growth and transformation. It shows that it is possible to learn from our failures, to change our behavior, and to become better, more empathetic people. In the end, the Karen versus Royal Guard incident is a reminder that we are all interconnected, that our actions have consequences, and that the world is watching. It is a call to embrace humility, respect, and awareness in our interactions with others, both online and offline. At IT is a challenge to use the power of social media responsibly and to strive to be better global citizens. The Royal Guard, in his unwavering commitment to duty and tradition, stands as a symbol of enduring values in a rapidly changing world. Karen, in her journey from entitlement to empathy, represents the potential for growth and transformation that lies within us all. Their story, captured in a single viral moment, offers a lasting lesson for us to carry forward. In a globalized world, humility, respect, and awareness are not just virtues. They are essential for navigating the complexities of human connection and building a more just and equitable world for all. The echo of that shove, seen and shared around the world, continues to reverberate, reminding us to consider the weight of our actions and the importance of standing aside for what truly matters.